So welcome to another Phish Show family instalment, and today we're chatting to Elton Boocock of Business Pilots. Elton, thank you for joining us. How are you? You okay?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you.
Good. And so for people who don't know Business Pilots, who don't know what you do, could you just give us a little bit of an overview, please?
Yeah, so Business Pilot is, think of it like a CRM system. It's basically a business management system. It allows you to measure and track and manage everything within the business, sort of right from the lead stage all the way through doing an installation and after service. It's just the entire business management piece. So CRM is probably the easiest explanation for it.
Okay. So you're dealing very close with installers then?
Yeah, so the customer base are installers. You know, it's specific to installers, so every customer is one.
Yeah, and in terms of the impact of COVID-19, then obviously the kind of the industry is starting to get back to business at the moment. But how have you as a business been impacted by COVID-19 over the last few weeks?
Okay, so for us, because the solution is all about sort of remote working, it sounds horrible to say it, but actually it's really helped us in terms of business, because people who previously didn't think that they needed to work remotely have suddenly realized actually we do. So the demand for Business Pilot has gone up during COVID-19 rather than down. So I suppose it's counterintuitive. You know, the more people think about having to work from home, having to work outside the office, the more the need for something like Business Pilot.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's a positive then, isn't it? Very much so for the industry and for yourselves. And in terms of what you've been doing to help the market during this time, if the demand's been there, is there anything kind of above and beyond providing the software that you've been doing to kind of help the industry at this crucial time?
Yeah, so the first thing we did is set up some webinars. So we've been running webinars. I mean, lots of people have, and you know, there's the whole sort of people getting zoomed out, you know, I'm sure. But we just brought installers together, and also as things have started to open up, fabricators as well, so the installers could get an angle on whether they were going to actually get supply. So the webinars were good. On one of those webinars, we realized that there was a massive demand from customers for installers to get back into their homes. The leads were coming through, so there was all this new business, and yet I think it was just over 80% of the people on the call were saying they weren't ready to go back in.
Right.
And we said, well, hold on, so what's this gap? Because, you know, in business, obviously, you don't normally have massive demand and then decide you're not going to take up on it. So what was the gap? And it was around the confidence on actually going back in, being compliant with the new guidelines, keeping, you know, the fitters and the customers safe. So we came away from that and immediately updated our app. So part of the system includes an app for people who are actually out and about, so fitters, salespeople, etc. So we immediately updated the app. So it goes through a series of, if you like, COVID-19 checklists, which happen in the main CRM as well, but also on the app, so that we could sort of help the installer to feel more confident that they had this in place, and also like audit trails and so on. So if anybody came back later and said, you know, look, we're not sure you carried out, you know, safe procedures, they could actually point to it and say, actually, we did these checks, these dates, and so on. So it was really practical. We wanted to, you know, sort of get in there and actually help, first of all with building that community, secondly with the app and the COVID stuff.
Yeah, fantastic. And then in terms of recovery for the market, I mean, obviously you talked there about the fact that people weren't quite ready to go back, but do you feel like people are now, and that, you know, that there's going to be a relatively speedy recovery in terms of people getting back to work and the demand still being there from customers?
So I think we're in an interesting phase now, because it's the bringing people back from furlough and how those people respond to that. Also, you've got to remember, we're working across the UK, so things are different. You know, it was really interesting on one of the webinars that, you know, people from England were talking about how we now get back, and yet guys on the same webinar from Scotland were saying, well, we can't go back yet. you know. So on that one particular call, I mean, I personally spoke with a guy from Wales, a guy from Scotland, a guy from England, all in completely different situations. So, so I think that people are now wanting to get back, and in fact, I think they are getting back. So not just wanting, they are getting back. I still think there's some people though who are concerned about it, and in particular, if you like, the smaller the company, probably more so than the bigger company, and how prepared they were as well. You know, so did they come into lockdown and not really do anything about getting back out the other side? Or did they come into lockdown and immediately start thinking, how do we get out the other side when we can? And I think there's going to be a real sort of, if you like, Y junction in the road now, in terms of those who on day one of lockdown were already preparing for day one of release, if that's the right word, and those who thought, oh, what can we do? You know, we can't do anything. So I think you're going to see an interesting recovery, because those who have got prepared and done stuff whilst you're in lockdown are really going to accelerate back out of it now.
Yeah, definitely. And from your perspective as a business, what are your plans, kind of short to medium term? Have you got any exciting updates in the pipeline?
Yeah, so we have a continual development anyway of the software, so that's irrelevant of COVID. That's just what we do. So there's a massive update to the sales side of the app coming out this week, so that's good. And coming out probably by the end of the month. It's development, so it's flexible, of course. You know, you've got to beta test everything, but planned for the end of the month is a huge upgrade to our what we call status progression. So if you imagine taking a lead or a contract, there's like some standard processes that you do every single time. So if let's say it's windows and doors, there'll be a set format that you do where because of this action, another action should follow on. So we've built this whole system up so that you can almost decide what that structure should be like, what that process looks like, and it just has automated triggers. So the minute you get back the signed order, it triggers specific things based upon what you've told the system your sales process is, or your installations process. So it's massive, so we're quite excited about it. It's probably been about 4 or 5 months of development, that one. You know, we release new updates every week, but of course, to do it every week, some of those updates are, you know, they're minor, they're just little tweaks. We're very sort of responsive to the users. So when the users say, this is great, but what if it could do this? It immediately goes on to, we use a Trello board, you know, that's just our technology we use. So, and it goes straight on the board, and we're ticking those off all of the time, which is how come we can do new updates every week. But then underneath that, we do like major updates. And Phish Show, of course, we already know, we won't be saying yet, but we already know what we're launching at the Phish Show. You know, so we always do a big launch for something like that. Obviously, we started at the Phish Show. That's when we officially launched. So, yeah.
That kind of leads me into my final question. So obviously you guys are going to be at Phish Show again next year, which we're really excited about. Delighted to have you back. And in terms of that as a date in the diary for the industry to work towards, we definitely feel that Phish Show 21 is going to come at a crucial time for the industry. You know, people getting back to business, the industry recovering, and that really is going to be the key platform for everybody to get back together, reconnect with the market, reconnect with one another. And do you think, you know, would you agree with that sentiment?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, obviously, we were due out at Fensterbow this year. So there's now been a full, if you like, the 2-year gap that normally sits in between Phish Show, but you fill that with Fensterbow. I'm sure Fensterbow would say we fill it with Phish Show, but, you know, basically, we've got our yearly big get-togethers. And of course, we didn't have one this year. So I think Phish Show next year stands to be a real moment of the first big event where people have got together. Now, I'd like to think will be back into the full swing before then, of course. But in terms of a big event where everybody gets together, I think it's extra exciting for Phish Show, because it'll be the first Phish Show since all of this craziness that was COVID-19.
Yeah, that's right. I think it will be, like you said, the first industry event, the first key industry platform for over 2 years. So we'll all be ready for it by then. Thank you so much for your time, Elton.
That's fine, thank you.